RJ Ochoa from bloggingtheboys.com joining us on the Buyers Barricades guest line. RJ, you can only pay one. You're Jerry Jones. You're going to pay the running back or you're going to pay the wide receiver?
I don't know who came up with this question, but I hate them.
I did. Thank you. Love you.
Well, I love you. Shout out to the Florida Gators for making you sad last Saturday. But
I'm going to go all Jerry and pretend this is a thumb.
This isn't a real question, to be clear. The answer is George Pickens 100 out of 100 times. As much as I like Javonte Williams and I'm appreciative of what he's offering, on the subject of the Texas Longhorns, there's one on the team who's ready to be the next guy up next year. It is a position that holds value. I know we've had that cyclical debate a lot over the last decade, but not as much value as wide receivers. So George Pickens, totally.
Well, first of all, I'm just wondering, and not saying who I would pick at this point in time, but I'm still waiting for Jaden Blue to do something. I mean, who's to say he's the next?
He's got blisters, man.
I mean, seriously, how in the world can you seriously say, well, we've got our guy, he's there? I don't know what Jaden Blue can do, and neither do you.
I don't, but I would offer that a year ago, the three of us had written off Javonte Williams, right? Like that's why it's okay to kind of make your bet. Again, I'm not saying you could just trot any old Yahoo back there. That's not my disposition, but for lack of a better or more succinct way to put it, you can do that far more easily there than you can at wide receiver, as exemplified by the fact that, look, I mean, how many dudes have they tried to find to be Robin, to see these Batman, and it's all failed, versus the guy who they're going to see opposite of them on Sunday in Rico Dowdle was another one of those dudes who they just kind of found and was able to have success. So shout out to Javonte. Jaden Blue's time will come. It's just a less difficult road at running back specifically.
I agree. I would pay Pickens with what we've seen, plus CeeDee's out. Pickens playing like a legit number one. He have a touchdown in every game so far? And with Javonte Williams and, quite frankly, with Miles Sanders, you've proven as a front office you can go, if you try, and find a running back. You know, the last couple of years, I don't know how hard they tried, but this year they did, and you can find one pretty cheap. I just don't see Jerry paying $6, $7, $8 million for a Javonte Williams, and I'm afraid some other NFL team would.
Yeah, and good for them. Let him go get paid. Let him be a comp pick for 2027. I'm rooting for Javonte in that sense. Yeah, that's the Jones philosophy. And again, I mean, maybe it's not Jaden Blue. Maybe it's, not the Deuce Vaughn type pick. But again, I mean, to Jason's point, I mean, Miles Sanders, I know he had the fumble and that, made him dead to a lot of people. But he has looked solid in his limited opportunities as well. And so there's always that dude. There's always that guy who was a top 100 pick and it just didn't work somewhere else for one reason or another, whether it's injuries or the system or there was a coaching change. So I would much rather spin the wheel there than a wide receiver, because right now, I mean, the last dude who they tried to crown at wide receiver is getting outplayed by Ryan Flanoy right now. And so I definitely want to keep George Pickens as long as I can.
Well, there you go. You just answered my question. This is Jerry Jones we're talking about, and he doesn't like to pay anybody. So if Flanoy keeps playing the way he's playing, George Pickens is expendable.
Not for 2 years. They've got some team control over him, thankfully. It is, look, I repeat this every time I speak about it because I'm interested in full disclosure. I was against the George Pickens trade. I did not trust them to handle it. I took the cheese that he had character issues in Pittsburgh, whatever. But despite my own unwillingness for them to make the trade, the moment they did make it, I said, okay, fine, I disagree, but get the extension done now. And I think a lot of people said that. And I'm not going to say that I, predicted CeeDee would get hurt, but I said, what if there is a world where CeeDee misses a handful of games for whatever reason, and that allows George to inflate his stats all the more? And we're seeing that now. I mean, do you think that David Mulugeta or his team of agents are going to sit there in March and be like, you know what, guys, you're right. CeeDee missed time. So we'll dock that off the, what we're asking for here. No, every step he takes, every record he breaks is a further indictment of this process. I don't want to kill the good vibe, but, this should have been taken care of.
Well, and again, if not, it could be taken care of during the season if that's the route they want to go. And with what we've seen, that's why Joe and I were talking about it in the office, because the other part of it, with what we saw from Flournoy, is Jonathan Mingo now a tradable piece for somebody else? I mean, when you seriously, I mean, they're deep at wide receiver. Mingo hasn't been ready. When he is, whose spot is he going to take, or can the Cowboys maybe move him somewhere else? He was an insurance policy that they don't need.
I would love that. I really would. I just don't think that it's possible. And that I'm not saying this is what you're saying, but there's a lot of the Giants are really down at receiver right now, right? Like Wan'Dale Robinson not going to play for them tomorrow. I mean, they've got basically the three of us, running routes for Jackson Dart. And so people are like, well, trade him Jalen Tolbert. He stinks. We hate him. It's like, okay, I mean, you've got to be realistic with your trade requests. I mean, the fact that Carolina got a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo, I mean, they ran to the bank. They were like, okay, we'll pack his bags. Go ahead, give him the pick. We'll be good. There's no way anybody else is trading for him, I'm afraid.
Well, or anybody else that you just mentioned, because Tolbert, while he's shown flashes, I wouldn't feel comfortable relying on him to be my number 3 anytime soon. He just is not proven to be that guy, and I don't have any trust in him at all. Okay, RJ, it was the Jets, and I feel like I have to say that. I don't know why. Cowboys played pretty well against a really bad team, but they did what they needed to do against such a bad team.
I disagree slightly. I understand that a lot of people, I think that you said that really well, even if you didn't intend to, that people say it was the Jets, and I don't know why they have to say that. It just feels necessary. Joe, they whooped their ass. I mean,
sure.
It was not close, and they did so without basically their entire offensive line. And I know Terrence Steele's a local guy, but if you had asked everyone to pick one of the starting 5 that they could have, he would not have been the choice by many.
No.
They were down CeeDee Lamb. They were down Kevontae Turpin. The defense still stinks out loud. I mean, almost blew this game before the Merritt Flew foul punch out. And so beyond the cliche of not making apologies for winning, we are 3 people who have watched this team implode when one really good player is hurt. The days when Tyron Smith would miss a game or Sean Lee would miss a game, I mean, they would just melt. I mean, they would forget how to play the sport. And so the fact that they were able to go on the road against a team, look, I know that the Jets are down and moribund, but they're still looking for their first win. They're still trying, obviously, to find someone to be, that team for them, and they can't get it done. And that Dak Prescott played so well. And I think more than anything, you obviously do have to contextualize things. But my biggest takeaway is Brian Schottenheimer is here to pillage the village. He wants to end you. The way he coached, the aggressiveness he displayed at the end of the first half, getting the score, calling the timeout to get the ball back inside of a minute. They got really lucky, obviously, with the big Javonte Williams run that set up the final touchdown. I mean, this is a dude who, I mean, they kind of, I've said a lot of great things about Mike McCarthy, but they kind of needed that guy who was unwilling to, put the pedal all the way down and take this thing out for a proper spin. And he's that dude.
He really, and again, I think Clayton Adams, I find it interesting because when you listen to some of the national shows talk about the Cowboys, the defense, Eberflus has to have time. It's a new system. And I'm thinking, they got a new offensive coordinator, different play caller. I know there's some similarities there, but you could definitely see there is a difference between what Shoddy is doing and what Mike McCarthy is doing. Whatever Clayton Adams has done with that offensive line, he gets some sort of bonus. But why are they continuing to struggle on the defensive side? It's like, well, here's the reasons why. But when you look at the Cowboys offense, same situation, and they've kicked it up a gear.
I think the answer, ultimately comes down to because despite what a lot of people want to say, the Cowboys had high levels of success under Mike McCarthy and even under Jason Garrett to some degree and under Kellen Moore as an offensive play caller. And what's the one common denominator between all those dudes? It's the guy throwing the ball, right? And which means that maybe we should give Dak Prescott even more credit than we do, that he's, obviously been successful in spite of all this change. And they just don't have that guy, right? They don't have someone who can carry everything. The talent on the defensive side of the ball is poor. And even if they did have Micah, it's not conducive in the same way. It's a reactive side of the ball. You simply cannot, control a game the way that Dak Prescott can, just because of the inherent value of the quarterback position. And so they don't have the same horses. You could argue to some degree so far this season, not in this game, but that they've gone up against some stiff competition that's been capable of exposing them. But I mean, ultimately, it comes down to they're just not very good, and that's not fun to say, but it's the truth.
Well, it is the truth. The one positive I'm going to take out of this, where you guys were talking about the offensive line, I think it proves one thing, that the Cowboys have some depth there. And I think that should be a pretty good feeling for Cowboy fans as you move forward. When you have 4 guys out, you slot in 4 guys and they play pretty well. And one of those guys may have played well enough to take somebody else's job.
Yeah, Guyton might be.
Who knows? So I'm just saying, I think it's a good thing that the Cowboys have that kind of depth at offensive line, and that was proven out. I think it's fantastic. And I'm going to agree with you, RJ, even as you're going to probably think I'm nuts.
You are.
Dak Prescott's playing at an extremely high level. He really is. The confidence he's playing with, the way he's moving around, the way he's throwing the football, all of those things are fantastic. But I do like the fact that he does have a running game this year. Jake Ferguson is playing at a high level. George Pickens is doing his job. And they're getting, whether it's Flournoy this week or somebody else, they're getting some guys making plays that are helping Dak. He doesn't have to put the entire offense on his back.
Yeah, I think that, this is a group outside of Pickens, obviously, although he's been through his fair share of things individually, that has really seen the darkest parts of being a Dallas Cowboy over the last, 18, 20 months, right? And I think that they've all just kind of decided, screw it. What's going to happen if we, try and fail? They're going to, we're going to lead first take tomorrow. Oh man, how will we deal with this? And I think that there's power in that, right? There's power in kind of, looking the man in the mirror and acknowledging, what you're dealing with, and that it's not this big bad wolf, just kind of understanding that it's more of a mirage and a mental thing than anything else. And I think Dak is kind of the center point of that. But you're right. And that speaks to Brian Schottenheimer and Clayton Adams and everybody involved, that it can be Ryan Flournoy this week, that, Jalen Tolbert can have the big catch, obviously, along the sideline against the Packers, even though they didn't win that game. I mean, they have points of depth, and they have bought into, I know it's cliche again, but a culture of everyone matters, everyone can have their moment. And I think that leadership does start with Dak. I found what Joe Hoyt tweeted after the game to be really powerful, that he spoke to the offensive line and said, hey, my whole career started because I was the guy who was ready for my opportunity. And you're the guys who are ready for this one, and we're going to go ahead and take care of it together.
RJ Ochoa, bloggingtheboys.com here on the Blitz on 94.1 at San Antonio Sports Star. We look at Carolina, and most people think easy win. They're a different team at home. Rico ran for 200+ last week. Chuba didn't practice today. What is your biggest concern for Sunday at noon?
Honestly, my biggest concern is Bryce Young. Not in that he's shown a reason to be concerned, obviously, but this is the gutter, things in bowling, right? That's what the Dallas Cowboys defense is, right? We'll put them up there. You don't got to worry about anything like that. Just toss the ball down and you'll knock down, 6 or 7 pins. And he has shown an ability in his career to get mobile. And I think that they also, in a very different way, have a what's there to lose disposition, right? They've seen, the depths of the NFL. And this is a chance to get a mount, right? This is a chance to go, beat the Cowboys, big audience. Granted, it's still a 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff. So I think Bryce playing with some reckless abandon, being willing to get off script, get out of the pocket, run on the Cowboys defense, because quarterbacks certainly can. That opens things up for Rico Dowdle. If that domino falls, I don't think Justin Fields was able to take proper advantage of that last week. That's really, that's the bow that breaks before this baby falls.
RJ, it is going to be a test for that run defense, and I think that is improved. I'm still more concerned about the secondary than I am the run defense, to be quite honest with you. And maybe Dowdle proves me wrong this week. I don't know, but I'm anxious to see what Ted McMillan can do, because the Cowboys wanted that guy, and he's a big receiver against that banged up secondary. It's going to be that's the matchup I want to see.
One, that's, got some, what is it? I know you guys are 100 years old. It's a Wonderful Life, right? The Christmas movie.
Yeah.
This is that, right? You get to kind of see what life could have been like. And life has arguably turned out better for the Cowboys in that they Ted didn't make it to them in the first round. Not necessarily that Tyler Booker, I know he's been hurt, whatever, but that was the catalyst for them trading for George Pickens. I don't think as much as, draft fans and college football fans, despite the fact that Ted went to one of the worst schools in the world, I don't think anybody would swap George Pickens for him right now from a Cowboys standpoint.
Very, very true. RJ Ochoa, from a long list of schools that includes Texas A&M and the University of Florida. What are you going to do Saturday, my friend?
Yeah, Saturday's tough. All the buddies that I ran around with in College Station are kind of looking at me and giving me a funny look, and I'm just giving them a Jerry Jones thumbs up. This is, last Saturday was awesome in that Florida beat Texas and exposed those frauds. But it was great in that Florida still looked like crap. And so, it didn't save Billy Napier's job. That would be my worst fear right now. So you got the best. It's what a lot of people I like to call a moral loss. You get the win, but you get the lessons and the humiliation associated with the loss. All the players feel great. Congrats to DJ Lagway. I think the New York Times is being a bit silly when it comes to Arch Manning, but I also think that Sark is kind of ducking some responsibility. Oh man, if you gave everybody our schedule, what would we do? Shut the hell up. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with that. Out of curiosity. It's more your world than mine. I mean, it made a lot of news when the boys that do the Carolina Panthers podcast quit because their team sucks. Have they stayed quit, or are you going on that show this week?
I am scheduled to appear on a Panthers podcast tomorrow. I don't believe it's that one, but I am in our world, our current world of media stuff. I was kind of I got a Bleacher Report notification about this. I'm not trying to shade the podcast, but was this really that big of a deal? That they quit podcasting. I mean, there's that Cowboys fan who shared a form that he transferred to the Chargers fandom. I don't recall getting a Bleacher Report notification for that. That felt like a bigger deal.
Well, it was a good topic for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, we enjoyed it.
What was that one called? The Meow Mix or something like that? I don't know.
Wow. I'm sure that was Joe's idea.
Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't.
I was just thinking they clearly aren't making any money. Their wives told them to stop.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, you know what? Now they're telling them, hey, go get into it now because now you got all this clout. Now you got to ride the wave. Become an anti-Panthers podcast. What animal is the opposite of a Panthers, Jason?
No idea.
I don't know, but what if you had to come up with an animal that was the opposite of a panther? What would it be?
I have no idea where you're going with that.
A wolf.
I don't know that.
I mean, opposite of a panther?
A wolf.
A wolf? You think a wolf would take down a panther?
I'm thinking a panther is a cat and a wolf is a dog.
Well,
and I'm
sure, but a Doberman and a poodle are both dogs.
Joe, wow, I didn't have an answer, but Joe sold me. That was.
I'm telling you, right? I mean, that makes sense to me.
Wow.
I mean, they could go cheetahs.
You got cat and dog.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cowboys and Indians. Come on.
I would take the panther over any dog that you throw out there, including the wolf.
Not a wolf, buddy.
Well, ironically, the Panthers are underdogs this week. I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I hope Jason's Longhorns lose again in humiliating fashion. Just a tough team.
Good chance of that, I promise you. Good chance of that.
Well, I'm sending you a Jerry Jones thumbs up, my friend.
I'm glad that's a meme for all of us now. That's the one good thing that came out of that.
Absolutely. I just wish the old man would have just owned it. Yeah, that dude was pissing me off, and I told him where to go.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. That would have been almost as cool as Joe immediately landing on the wolf. That would have been respect. Yeah, hiding behind it is lame.
Yeah.
It would have been worth the $250,000. So
RJ Ochoa, bloggingtheboys.com on the Buyers Barricades guest line, where they provide traffic control, rental, and sales for San Antonio and beyond. Online at buyersbarricades.com.